Hello and welcome back, and that's right, today I want to talk once again about the issue regarding dodgy firmware on Sandisk Extreme Pro external SSDs. Now, we talked already in a couple of videos. Not only did we reference a lot of kind of initial news posts on websites like The Verge, Tom's Hardware and Ars Technica, but in our own dedicated videos here we went through a little bit more information about what's happened, the different devices that were affected, and even did an update video talking about Sandisk and WD's response, and ultimately users that have still found this to be a pressing problem. Now, in that previous video where I talked about it, I referred to the company EaseUS, and I said I was working on a video with them regarding data recovery. Now, that video is this one, because at the moment, if you are someone that has been impacted by the Sandisk dodgy firmware that resulted in the file system on these SSDs falling apart, and again, we are talking about Sandisk Extreme Pro SSDs, so you may have lost data, or midway through a backup, the data wasn't maintained, or you've completely lost access to that data, forcing and necessitating the drive needing to be reformatted or reinitialized and that data lost. There are ways to get that data back, and one of them is the one we talk about today, utilizing EaseUS data recovery, their Wizard Pro software, which again currently you can use for free to preview to see if data recovery is on there, but then you have to get a license in order to fully restore all of that data completely. However, if you are someone that has been impacted by the Sandisk Extreme Pro firmware issue, you can head over to their Twitter right now and follow the instructions there, and it will be linked in the description. You can go ahead, comment on there that you've been affected on your model that you were hit by this firmware, and they will issue you a free complete license for that data recovery Wizard Pro software. And that's what today's video is. Yes, of course, they have sponsored this. I'm sure you've seen sponsorship or something on the top of this video. Again, I hold no qualms with that one. We've already done stuff like this before. But I think this is something that Sandisk Pro owners who have been hit by this, who are looking at data recovery and just how much it's going to cost, the idea that there is a free option to get to the data that's on there, you know, let's face it, let's not look at gift horse too hard in the mouth, because this will be recoverable for most users. What do I mean by that? Well, as we load up the software, because again, if you head over, you put your details in on that tweet there, and then go over to their website, and they'll get back to you with a license key. Just go ahead, download the software from their main page. It'll get downloaded, and it installs just like any other .exe. Now, once that's installed, if we head over, I've got it already installed on my system here. As we can see, we've got that. Then you get your SSD and you plug it into your system, as I'm doing there. Now, why is this going to be any better than just going to the recycle bin? Well, when the Samsung SSD issue hit a lot of these drives, what happened was it stopped you being able to access the data. It either wrecked the file system internally or access to the index, and ultimately the data still resided on that SSD. Whether it is that you're looking at SSDs or you're looking at hard drives, the data is still there. Even if you do a light format of a drive, all it does is basically null the drive's index, where it knows what's on the drive. And again, it will differ depending on hard drives and SSD. Again, check out my video recently where we got drives from CX and recovered the data. But what happens is, all you need is software to interact and communicate with the data that's still on the drive in order to re-establish and access that data. And even if you've been forced to reinitialize the disk, unless you've gone for a full bit-by-bit format, which, by the way, takes hours upon hours. Once you get to the terabytes, it can take days. Unless you've done that and you've not wrote new data onto the drive, the data is still there. And what you need is to be able to establish a communication between your host system and that drive without adding more data to it. And that's what this software is going to do. So as you can see, new volume K, that's my M2 NVMe based drive there inside the the Sandisk Extreme Pro enclosure. That's what they ship it with. It's a Sandisk SSD, is available to be scanned. We click scan and the software begins. And what it's going to do is a very quick surface level scan. And when it does that surface level scan, it is looking for evidence that there is data on there. We haven't recovered the data yet. All that's happening right now, as you can see, is it's scanning the directory for what's on that drive. And as you can see at the bottom there, we have got a percentage figure there showing how long this is going to take. Again, it will depend on the scale of the drive. This is just a 500 gig drive, but it's probably going to take the better part of 20 minutes anyway. But on top of that, not only can you see a good idea of the data that is on there right now, because if we have a look at this drive as is right now, so if we, wrong option there, if we go into my PC and look at this prior to the recovery of the EaseUS software, we can see that on there we have got just shy of 10 gig of data on this 455 gig remaining drive there. That's empty space, apparently. But already we can see there is 405 gig of recoverable data on this. And that's because as I've used this drive over time, I've deleted data, I've moved data, and what it's finding right now is historical data, the evidence on there that still resides on this SSD. Now, the software itself, when it's doing this scan, there's a few options open to you. First and foremost, on the left-hand side of the screen, it starts putting the data that it's finding evidence of before it starts the recovery into different folders. Some of it is data that has been deleted, some of it is lost data, some of it is broken data, but moreover, you can go to the types and actually break it down into subcategories. So as you can see, it's finding evidence of 15,000 different photos, which again, you can break down into formats as well. So for example, if we look at JPEG, we've already started having listings for different kinds of drive that are recoverable on this. If we go back into the pictures there, we can just find out there is so much data still to be recovered. And it breaks it down neatly into videos, documents, archival, audio, emails, others, more. All of that data being broken into subcategories, which means later on, if we're looking for a very specific piece of data, then we can dig into this and find it within those respective categories. Another thing, if you choose to, and there's, say for example, a very specific piece of data that you want to recover on here. So for example, say I wanted to get this file here, I can go ahead while it's still scanning, right click and click recover if I choose to. And I can recover that file now. It will pause the recovery and it will allow me to recover that file into the recovered folder, move it over, and then from there access that file. But just bear in mind, you will need to have the full unlicensed version of this to commit a full recovery. Hence why it's really good that they're including that Wizard Pro license. If you are affected by the Sandisk firmware impact, just make sure you head over to that tweet on their Twitter and make the most of it. But for now, we're up to 26%. When we get to the advanced and deeper scanning, the scan recovery will take a little bit longer. So what we're going to do now is we're going to fast forward to the completion of this recovery just to see what scale of data the EaseUS Wizard Pro software has found on this disk in order for us to try and recover. Okay, so the EaseUS Data Recovery Wizard Pro software has completed there, and as you can see, it recovered 22,332 files, amassing 409 gig. Now, I say recovered because the recovery has not quite started yet. As you can see, if we go to the types, we've still got loads of different file formats, and frankly, to recover 409 gig of data will take an exceptionally long time. So what we're going to do is just going to go ahead and select pictures, and we're going to go ahead and select PNGs. And what I'm going to do is head into the PNGs folder. There's lots of files. We select the PNGs that we want to go with and we click recover. It's as straightforward as that. We select our directory, so I'm going to go with the recovered directory there, and so we'll go all the way into that, and the recovery begins. It's that straightforward. And now what it's going to be doing is it's already did that surface level scan and seen that there's a layer of data. Now it's recovering 6,493 files from this disk, and it's now saving these onto my local machine. It's not writing them back onto the SSD, because if it did that, it might potentially overwrite other data. So just make sure that your operating system and the system you are running this software on has sufficient space or a connected external drive in order for you to conduct that recovery. But let's fast forward to the completion of this recovery to see how it's gone. And recovery is complete. So let's go ahead and click View Recovered. We know it's going into all of these folders. Let's go ahead and to PNG. have a little look, and as you can see, we have recovered data. We've gone through there, we've got plenty of files to play with, and you get everything from icons that we searched for earlier on, different lost file names, they're all in there. All of the recovery stuff that was on that drive from tests that I've done in previous videos is available to see here, and it goes on quite extensively. But what about other recoveries? Well, if we look at the video recovery there, we can break down into different file formats, and we've got quite a lot to choose from there. So if we go into the MP4, for example, we've got quite a lot of data. If we tried to recover all of this, we need 145 gig of data. But it's the fact that we still got that option to recover that data going down to documents as well. So if we go for just standard docs, we can go ahead and maybe recover these. So let's go ahead and see if we can recover ourselves a little bit of document data overall. Let's recover some docs. It's only 1.6 meg, so let's recover that now. Find ourselves some documents, so we can go ahead and find ourselves some different information and data there that's been stored on this drive. And what about some audio data? Let's go in with audio and recover ourselves some MP3s, or perhaps we want WMAs. Let's go for the WMAs, shall we, and recover those. We've got 18 meg to play with there. Let's recover those. Boom, straight as. We've got that data in there, and although I don't think I'm going to be able to play it because of YouTube, take my word for it, we have got recovery there of music files that are on that drive. As I say, there is data recovery with this software it is possible on a Sandisk drive there. Now, again, just bear in mind, this isn't going to work for everyone. Depending on the level of your recovery, the level of the format and reinitialization, the history of that data, and the complexity of that data, you're going to have different results using this software. Again, if we go back to home and exit this recovery, the software does have lots of different tools built into it, everything from SD card recovery, NAS recovery as well, and there are other tools available on their website for piecing together different file formats. So for example, if you're looking for recovery of video files and different kinds of complex files and the level of restoration made possible, even revisions of OS recovery and more are made possible in this software with different file formats and all of them included. Yes, this is a plug, and there is no guarantees. This software is going to help you recover the data from your Sandisk firmware affected SSD. However, if it's free anyway, rather than before you go out and spend an absolute packet on a load of data recovery services at an intrinsic bit-by-bit level, why not give this a free punt? It's not going to cost you anything, and overall, this recovery on this 500 gig drive has cost me nothing more than about 40 to 50 minutes just to make this video, and it'll be quicker for you just to test it real quick before recovery of your Sandisk. And if it doesn't work, then at least you have tried. But this has been EaseUS and the Wizard Data Recovery Wizard Pro software, and the free license key you can get. Links to everything I talked about today are in the description. We may do a follow-up video on this if we want to utilize some of the rebuild tools that are included with their software package that I recommend you check out. And again, if you want to find out more about the software, go through the page linked below. Go to the Twitter page if you want to get that free recovery key. Just follow the steps on there. And if you want some idea about how else you can use this software, because even if it doesn't work on your Sandisk, you just got yourself a free license. There's a bunch of other stuff from corrupted video repair to advanced photo repair, all included with that software and in this license key. It's not just about the Sandisk, so give it a go. But this has been recovering data on your Sandisk Extreme Pro SSD if you hit with the firmware on utilizing EaseUS Wizard Recovery Pro. I'm sick of saying that, I'll be honest, words lost all meaning. Thank you so much for watching. I'll link in the description to everything we've discussed, and apart from that, have yourselves a fantastic week.